Squale created the Rolex Submariner? Really? The Rolex Submariner wasn't designed in isolation, and the deeper you dive into how that watch was actually created, the less it looks like a single invention, and the more it looks like something that surfaced from a very specific place at a very specific moment in time, because the Submariner isn't just a design, it is the intersection of patents, suppliers, geography, manufacturing culture, and a name that almost never gets mentioned. Charles von Büren, welcome back to Horological. The accepted version is clean. Rolex creates the Submariner in 1953, an evolution of the Oyster Case, screw-down crown, rotating bezel, waterproof architecture, the blueprint for the modern dive watch, a single origin, a single author, a single breakthrough. But even the foundation of that watch, the screw-down crown, it didn't begin with Rolex. In 1925, Paul Perregaux and Georges Perret file a patent for a threaded crown system. Rolex acquires it, refines it, industrialises it, builds the Oyster Case round about it. But here's the part that gets lost. Patents expire, and when they expire, they don't disappear, they diffuse. By the 1940s, the idea of a screw-down crown, it is no longer proprietary. It becomes a shared engineering solution available to anyone capable of building it reliably. And then there's the case itself, because Rolex didn't manufacture the early Submariner case entirely in-house. It relied on specialist suppliers, including C.R. Spillmann, working within the Rolex controlled structure of Genex SA. So what you actually have, it is not a single invention, it is a layered construction. Perregaux and Perret, Rolex, Spillmann, 3 layers already, and we're still calling it one watch. Now introduce the name that sits just outside that chain, Charles von Büren, and this is where the timeline becomes uncomfortable. Because the company Von Buren doesn't just appear fully formed in the 1960s. Some historical accounts suggest case-making activity as early as 1946. Others place the formal Neuchâtel factory in 1950, with the Squale trademark and dive case patent appearing clearly in 1959. That gap between early activity and formal documentation is where things become less precise, not because nothing was happening, but because the early post-war period in Swiss manufacturing is not perfectly documented. Companies were forming, workshops becoming specialists, case makers becoming engineers, and not every workshop left behind a clean, modern paper trail. So now the question shifts. Von Büren is no longer the guy who came late to the dive watch party. He becomes a highly skilled case maker emerging in the exact same industrial moment that produces the Rolex Submariner. Now add location, C.R. Spillmann, La Chaux-de-Fonds, Von Büren, Neuchâtel, the distance, around 20 kilometres. 20 kilometres, that isn't distance, that is proximity, a shared industrial environment, same training routes, same tooling suppliers, same machining standards, same waterproofing challenges. Workers didn't migrate industries, they moved between workshops, and this is where modern viewers and collectors sometimes misunderstand historical Swiss watchmaking. These weren't isolated factories operating in different worlds. Case makers, machinists, tool makers and engineers all existed within a remarkably small industrial network. Knowledge didn't need a patent assignment or a signed NDA contract. Sometimes it simply travelled with the people themselves. This is a very historical Swiss thing, where in the winter farmers would make watches and would travel between workshops with their individual skill sets. Now step back and look at the problem. How do you seal a crown under pressure? How do you maintain case integrity at depth? How do you build reliably into a mechanical object that's going to be underwater. And then remember the core solution, threaded crown sealing. It is now available to anyone capable of executing it, because if you're waiting for a signed document proving influence, you're misunderstanding how this industry worked back then, and this is proven by the fact that not everyone even chose the same solution. The first Blancpain 50 Fathoms didn't use the same approach. Instead, it had gasket-based sealing, always sealed, no reliance on user behaviour. Arguably a better implementation, because Blancpain didn't just engineer a watch, it engineered a watch around human error. You can't forget to screw the crown down. Now you have Rolex screw down crown system, Blancpain gasket-based architecture, von Büren emerging dive case specialist, officially by 1959, but in reality much longer before that. They later became Squale, all solving the same problem at the same time in the same region. So was von Büren involved in the Submariner 6204 or the 6205 case? There's no documentation that I could find that proves it unequivocally. No patent, no contract, no clear attribution, but that is not the right question, because there are subtle clues. The real question is this: how do multiple specialists within 20 kilometres of each other, sharing the same workforce, working in the same engineering problems in the same decade, not influence each other? The Submariner isn't just a watch. It's not even just a Rolex watch. It is not a singular invention. It is a convergence point where a Perregaux and Perret idea becomes available. Rolex turns it into a system, Spillmann manufactures it, and von Büren is emerging in the same environment that will soon produce some of the most capable dive watches ever made. So no, there's no concrete proof von Büren helped design the Submariner case, although they had shared staff with Spillmann. Subcontract artisans, independent master case polishers, gasket fitters and tool makers frequently moved between Spillmann's factory and von Büren's workshop, depending on who held the larger active contract at a given time. I also found evidence they shared the same specialist foundries. Both makers relied heavily on the same regional metallurgy specialists to source the heavy corrosion-resistant steel blanks required to forge their waterproof watch cases. The Submariner clearly wasn't built alone, it was built inside an expansive ecosystem. Longines themselves had the first commercially available rotating bezel tool implementation with the Weems second setting from 1927. Rolex had the 1937 Zerographe with a timing interval bezel. Blancpain has the first commercially available dive timing bezel in 1953. The Rolex Submariner surfaced in 1953 but was not commercially available until 1954. And yet people call the Squale 1545 a homage. Watch collecting isn't logical, but it is horological.